And we're live. Just kidding. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the episode 96 of the Office Hours podcast. We haven't had a chance to record in like a month and a half or 2 months, even probably. I've lost all of my subscribers on YouTube since then, so the new class of OGs is about to come online. So welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah. It's goblin mode. I'm not even bothering with like the green screen or any of that crap.
Well,
Oh,
have you been
by the
though?
way, it's been very kind of consistent in a sense. Like every day is like basically like every other day. You're like living on baby's schedule, and everything revolves around that. But it's been good. It's been good. We're finally getting some nice sunny breaks. We had miserable weather for like 2 weeks, just pissing rain every day. And yesterday was really nice. It was like 16 degrees and sunny. It felt like
Ah,
spring. So
16
it's
degrees.
yeah,
You made it. That's good. 16
yeah,
degrees.
yeah.
That's luxury, you know? What
I
did you
guess
do?
we went for a walk, and then I think we had to drive to Costco to buy food. So it's nothing too crazy. It's 12.5 outside right now, so it's nice. It's nice.
Well,
There's like mean clouds out there though, so I don't know. It might still change, but
is it
and we're
sunny?
finally officially in the spring because it's been the equinox was yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
so we're getting more daylight than we are nighttime. And
Yeah.
also, BC this year decided that we're not gonna go back on daylight savings after this. So like we just switched for daylight savings or turned it off. I never know how it works, but that's it. Like in the winter, we're not going back. We're just gonna
Is
have
this a
like one
good thing
time.
though? Do
I
you think
think
it's
it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Yeah.
like what advantage do you get from this?
I think like it's a stress for a lot of people. It's like massive stress for kids and the elderly. Like a lot of elderly actually like if you look for all cause mortality, it spikes during daytime changes because like
Mortality, like people dying
yeah, people dying. Yeah.
because the time
Because like
change?
yeah. Well, I mean, you get less sleep. It's like jet lag for an hour. Like you have to adjust, so it's like more stress on your body and like all these other things. So this is like not really good.
And this is proven scientifically. Like,
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, at least I don't know if it's been proven, but like at least there's data to suggest that there could be something to it. Like, uh, even though the correlation does not equal causation, it can heavily imply causation. You just need to kind of trace it out.
You know what? That's what I'm thinking, right? Like, I think I was having a conversation earlier somewhere. We were talking about, yeah, I remember. We're talking about MSG. So I
Mm,
was saying that, oh, like MSG is, I mean, I'm not endorsing anything, but I was saying that MSG is not good for you. Like
mm-hmm.
it's very bad for your in your food and it's blah 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 blah. And I was saying it because I remember that I saw some research about it like a long time ago. Like this is
There's like
in
MSG panic in like 2010s or 20,
yeah,
2005, 2008. Where it was like, oh my god, MSG is everywhere. If you eat too much MSG, you're literally gonna explode.
exactly. So I carried this data in my mind. I was like, yeah, this is true. You cannot. So I remember we had because we bought food from somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and and then I decided to, you know what? Let me even research again what I was saying, just so I know what I'm saying is fact for next time. And then I saw like apparently it was just a panic. It was like some research that was supposed to be biased to certain demographics of people who
Mm-hmm.
actually use MSG to cook mainly.
Well, yeah, because
And
like Chinese cuisine uses a lot of that stuff apparently.
yeah, so
Yeah.
now they say it's not that it's not good for you. It's just um the research was not complete or something like this. Like it was a
Mm.
bias. So like so now people who have gone thinking MSG is not good for you probably. So that's why I'm like, what? How do we even trust this kind of like? Oh yeah, there is a research that
Yeah,
says.
yeah. You can't like you know how especially now with the kid. It's like, oh, you need to feed your child vegetables, and like, says who? It's like, you heard it from your mom, who heard it from her mom, and where she heard it from, no one knows. But it's like gospel for everybody. It's like, you have to feed your children vegetables. It's like, do you though? Like, I don't
They
know.
just go here. Why? They just go here. They should be.
Exactly. You know, we've started like giving our kids solid foods, and given her like a piece of steak. It was well done, not like bloody. I still don't understand what's the big deal about the bloody thing, but fair enough. I'll let it go. And there's like a photo with her like literally with like an entire chicken drumstick like in her face. She can't chew it, obviously, but she was like you know,
Looking at it. Yeah.
getting. We're kind of just introducing the flavor, and I can tell you, she spent way more time with a piece of steak and chicken like held on for a continuous amount of time than to any type of vegetable we're giving her. With vegetables, she just like tries it and like throws it out. With steak, she was literally like sitting there for 5 minutes, just like you know, eating on it. I'm not saying anything, but then maybe I'm saying something. I don't know.
I'm hearing what you're saying because I don't know if I genuinely agree with, like, I mean, maybe everyone is different. I've always said this, like, I feel we all have different body chemistry, but I don't know if the way people push vegetables is church, is gospel that much
Yeah.
because if it's
I
good
think
for you, like
if it was that good for you, I mean, like engineered food aside, like all the chips and where you have like a staff of 50 food scientists trying to make it ultra palatable and like really addictive. Like if you just take natural foods, if it was that good for you, it would be delicious to you because your body is not stupid.
yeah, exactly.
And most vegetables aren't really. Like if you try eating any vegetable, even cooked, like if you try eating them without any kind of seasoning or any kind of sauce, it'll taste like shit. Like the most of the flavor in there comes from the sauce most of the time. And the ones that you like, they're actually sweet. Like sweet potato, okay, you can bake it, it tastes sweet and palatable. But like if you go 100 years back when it wasn't as sweet, you probably wouldn't even be able to eat it. It'll just taste like paste, you know? So anyway.
I don't know.
I was just gonna say that, like, for some people, like, the first time they learn some kind of fact, they imprint on that fact like a little duckling, and it, even if it regardless if it's like right or wrong, it's almost impossible to like change their mind about that fact later on.
Exactly, you know? And I wouldn't blame them sometimes because you read stuff like, oh, the research says. This is what I'm saying. I feel like one of the weakest part of science, in my opinion, is nutritional science.
Yeah, it's garbage.
Because I feel like most of it is probably propaganda. I was thinking about something recently. I was like,
it's like how much money Nestle and Kellogg's spent lobbying and paying food scientists for their unbiased independent research.
Right? Like I was saying, that they say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Most important meal of the day, but you say cereal is breakfast.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like this is what you push as breakfast, but this is the most important meal of the day. Like,
do you know what was the intention of coming up with cornflakes?
No, what was it?
Because like Kellogg, I think his name was John Kellogg. He was like a Seventh-day Adventist or some sort of religious weirdo, and he basically came up with cornflakes to stop people from like experiencing lust and masturbating, because it was like so shitty thing to eat that they would just tank their libido and they would stop masturbating because that's a sin and affront to God. That's like legit the origin story of cornflakes that is now part of the most important meal of the day, is so you're not horny all the time.
Oh my god, this is true. Like this is real story.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Like I'm not even joking. Like that's the origin story, the villain arc of cornflakes.
I think I've heard this
in a modern diet. Yeah.
I swear, I think I've heard it before. But that's wild, though. You know, you see what I'm saying? I really don't trust any. Nutritional science is so weak that you don't know what you're really like
Well, I mean, arguably because of the ethics laws, we can't just like not feed people for science or something. So I think they having just really hard time doing scientific experiments. Plus, they're expensive, and like, who has the money to pay for it? Oh, it's the ultra processed food companies that obviously, you know, have market incentives so that their stuff is being labeled healthy and whatnot.
And my own also, like, I feel like most of this science research comes from a particular place. Most of them, in my opinion, I feel like comes from the US, no? Like, we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
even.
Well, because they have the most money to spend on stuff like that. Like all the other countries, they barely have any money to spend on barely anything. And so all of that stuff kind of gets by the wayside. At least the new health secretary has flipped the pyramid. And now, you know, proteins and fats sit on the top and the grains and cereals are like on the bottom, as it should have been for all these years. So at least they're making some changes there. Because I think like a lot of people trust it, and like, okay, you know, my doctor tells me that I should eat like 5 servings of bread a day, and he's a smart guy wearing a white coat. I better trust that guy, right? So if people don't have time to do research, at least now the doctor's maybe going to be telling them, look, okay, eat whole food, good quality of proteins and fats, and like have some carbs here and there, but like mostly from like whole grain and whatnot. Like don't eat ultra processed garbage. Don't eat cereal because it's just like sugar on top of sugar. So maybe something will change. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. This makes me a little bit question. It makes me question like medical science in general. I feel like a while ago, help me here, right? Help me. I need actually. Let's discuss this a little bit. I
Sure.
remember, I remember that a while ago I was saying that um, medical science is true. There are some part of medical science that has really grown exponentially, like a lot. If you compare like 17th century, whatever, historically.
Yeah.
But there's still some part of it that you question because the research that they do to come to this conclusion is very biased.
Yes.
It's not complete. Like, I think there are some, it's not large enough to be able to say everybody should do this. This is the healthy thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
because where you live and the kind of food you eat and your environment also plays a large part in your health science, like health composition. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel medical science has not covered all this part, and I feel like that makes it weak. And everyone kind of takes science from the US, like you said, they do the most research on things like this, and kind of affects other people in other countries. Like I feel it's not connected, and it makes me
Yeah.
distrust this science.
No, that's definitely true. Like I remember my grandma back when I was like, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9, something like that, years old, so a long time ago. Uh, and it was like, oh my god, the cholesterol is gonna kill us all. And then we switched to like some shitty margarine or some crap like that, and it was like they just heard it on TV, and
Mhm.
that came to us like through Europe, from US to through Europe to here, right? And it's just like no one really questioned it. They just kind of went whole hog, and it's like, okay, we're not doing this anymore, right?
Exactly.
And I think like everyday people don't even have time to question any of that stuff. I mean, ideally we should be questioning everything, but like someone said that like science progresses one funeral at a time, because you know there's like some
Some
research
people do that.
scientist that came up with some hypothesis, and maybe like they amassed some data to say like that's how it is, and then they're going to be sitting there defending it till basically they're dead, right? And they're going to be because if somebody comes in and says, oh, this guy is full of crap, whatever he came up with is completely wrong, like the reputation is at risk, their grant money for further research is at risk. So they stand to lose a lot if their stuff gets disproven. So they're gonna be like weeding out their competition this entire time just to kind of keep the space, the spot, like the place in the spotlight. And so new ideas have really hard time displacing old ideas. Like we've been going on about this cholesterol thing for years and years and years, and finally they're just starting to say, oh, maybe it's not really how we predicted it. Someone even said like the entire like Alzheimer research with like the amyloid plaque and all this kind of stuff, it's all bogus because they found evidence of data manipulation in like the main guy's research. And governments across the entire planet spend like infinity money like trying to figure out Alzheimer cause based on his research, and now it's all in question. And it's just like, yeah, the best thing you can do is to stay healthy. And like acute care is well enough. Like if you're having like your limbs torn off or something happened like of acute nature, medical science is really good. But for any kind of chronic condition, you better off not getting any chronic conditions to begin with if you can afford it.
Yeah, yeah. This is what I was thinking too. And I wonder, how do we even manage this? Because the people we look up to for knowledge, turns out they don't know what they're doing. Like there are certain people. That's what I was saying, right? Like I was having a conversation. I mean, the conversation about MSG, we trickle down into like stuff like this, and I was like, there are certain people that everyone looks at like, oh, this is supposed to be the source of knowledge. Like these people know exactly what they're saying, right? And it turns out they don't really know what they're saying, because today they say this and tomorrow they say it's another thing. So if you are listening to them this entire time, you probably will have complicated your own health until now they say, oh, yeah, someone made a mistake last week. Meanwhile, you're there, you're fighting another disease because you took what they said by religiously,
Yeah, yeah. But like, what is one to do?
That's the question.
Nobody has that kind of time, right? Like, I spent a bunch of time listening to a whole bunch of talks from various conferences when I was like taking transit to work, and it was like, okay, I have like 40-minute drive one way. I can listen to some low carb conference talking about like various things, and kind of a lot of it sort of filtered in my brain, right? And I made some conclusions to myself, right? But like I had time to do it, and maybe I had resources to follow some of that stuff. But like for most people, they don't have time to learn any of that stuff. They have to kind of take it on faith, what they've been given, right? And like from what I hear is like, once you start listening to that stuff, a lot of the algorithm starts feeding you all these videos from people. And usually they have like extremely acute problems. Like, oh, my child has some sort of genetic malfunction that, if they don't eat a certain way, they like literally die or something because whatever. And so they are forced by nature to take their health or the health of their loved ones into their own hands and start figuring it out, because like conventional science doesn't provide any kind of answers for them. And like you start noticing it a lot, like people from all the different kinds of situations that have like these horrible things happening to them, and they're like, okay, like once I started researching these things myself and learning about it, I figured out a way that works for me that helped to reverse or manage or tamp it down a little bit. And so like most people are never really forced to do it. And when they are, they go to the doctor. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, like your blood pressure is a little bit high, but that's okay. You can like take the statin and you'll be fine. And like, oh, you're pre-diabetes, but it's okay. You can take some of this drug and you'll be fine, right? They never really, like the incentives are set up in a way where they really have no need to address the root cause, right? And like, I don't know, like the entire medical system here right now is so freaking cooked. Like, if I want to talk to my doctor, my family doctor, right, I have to make an appointment, and the next appointment I'm going to have with her is probably going to be at least in a month. Like, I can't just go and see a doctor like today. Even the walk-in clinics in Vancouver and surrounding areas, they basically say, okay, we operate as a walk-in clinic from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Everything else is by appointment. So like,
2 hours.
2 hours, yeah, 2 hours, and they're not open on weekends either, right? So essentially, anytime you need anything, emergency room is the only place you go. Like if you look, there's a website that like aggregates all the hospitals and their wait times. Like it's usually like 4.5 to 5 hours wait to see somebody if you have something, right? But that's besides the point. But I'm saying is like, and even if I get my phone, like I can book a phone call or I can book in person. It's a 15-minute appointment a month from now. Like 15, like what kind of care can I receive in 15 minutes? Half of that is going to be spent by me explaining what's wrong with me or my idea of what's wrong with me. Because like, I don't even know, right? Sometimes like I have a symptom, but like what exactly is that? So yeah, like the best thing you can really do is not to even get to that state. And like they're incentivized to do it because they're going to be suggesting you stuff that the insurance covers. Because like, why would they suggest you something the insurance can't cover? Most people can't afford healthcare. Like only very rich people can afford out-of-pocket things. And in Canada, you can't even get out-of-pocket things, right? Like I've been hearing these things where people say like, oh, you have whatever third stage of lymphatic cancer, you'll be dead in like 2 months, but it's a 6-month wait for an MRI. But you can go across the border to United States and pay them $400 to get an MRI today. Oh, I guess I'll just die then.
Yeah, it's very tricky because now when you were talking, I was thinking about like I was putting it together in my head, and I was thinking there is a cycle here. So we do bad research on like nutrition or stuff or whatever health science,
Maybe not
and
even bad research, but like not
half-baked.
enough research and biased research.
And then this research causes people to fall sick, and then they come to the clinic, and then we make drugs to keep them in the clinic. And these drugs don't exactly, for example, I know like there are some people who come from, I mean, I know people that come from like Africa who, when they got to this part of the world, like in the West here, um, they start to have, what's that thing called? You know, that thing with lactose intolerant. They become lactose intolerant.
Right.
And now this is a condition. This is just an example. Like you weren't lactose intolerant before you left home. And then you get here, you become lactose intolerant. I guess like it could show up at a later stage in life, but I just find some things are connected because there are people who live longer than these people.
Oh, wait a sec. It says you're stopped recording. Are you running out of disk space again?
I hope not. Do you hear me now? I'm back.
Oh, hello. You're back?
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
Sorry about that. Do you
That's
think we'll be
okay.
able
That's
to
okay.
adjust this?
Well, I want to see, maybe they cut off a little bit of a trailing end of what we were saying. But up to that point, I think it should be fine.
Okay. There was anyway.
See, I was hoping to post it pretty much unedited, and now you're making me do the work.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I think what
Where
happened
were
was
we?
like some memory thing, application memory. But anyway, yeah, I was telling you about how I know that some people they were not lactose intolerant before coming to the breast. And then it may be the food and like the stuff that we eat, but this is supposed to be the place where like you get the best based on medical research and like medical
Yeah.
stuff, everything. So like some people,
Everybody's saying that like food in Europe is much better that compared to North America. Even like the same things. Like if you buy pasta here or bread here versus bread and pasta in Italy, it's like massive amount of difference. It's
and
like
that's what I'm
everybody
saying.
who goes to Italy, they're like, oh my god, they eat pasta all the time, but there's like barely any fat people. So
That exactly. That's my concern here. Like I feel everything is in cycle. So you eat bad food, and then you get stuck in the drug cycle, and then
yeah,
everyone is making money off people's health. So like now
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
what do we know? So now this whole um um belief about like eat your vegetables. The vegetables you're even asking me to eat, it's not even good vegetables. It's like
yeah. That's
lab-grown
true too.
vegetables. So it's a
It's like a
yeah,
poor approximation of a vegetable.
yeah.
You know, it's kind of
Um,
what's that effect called? I was just hearing about it recently. Uh, where you think you remember something being a certain way, but it was never that way, and you just like you kind of retroactively imagined the memory.
mhm. uh,
Some people were like they took like some brand from some clothing, and they say, oh, the common example was like the Fruit of the Loom brand, and they have this logo where it's like a bunch of fruit, and there's like a people say, okay, there was a cornucopia horn behind the fruit in the logo, and then everyone started saying like, oh, and there was never a cornucopia horn in the logo, and somebody reached out to the company. The company said, yeah, we never had a cornucopia horn in the logo. But then something went to like a thrift store and found like some old clothing from like 40 years ago, and there it was, the freaking horn. And it's like, I remember tomatoes tasting better when I was a child. I remember like all fruits and vegetables tasting better when I was a child. And now everything tastes like a freaking cardboard. And like, what is the nutritional value? Like they say, oh, it contains like so many minerals and vitamins, but like, I doubt like the modern vegetables even have the same levels of minerals and vitamins considered like how they're grown, like you like monocrop the shit out of some chunk of soil, the soil gets depleted in like 5-6 years up until it's like fully barren, and then they like chuck it full of nitrogen fertilizer so it has nitrogen so the plant can grow. But in terms of like micro elements and minerals and vitamins, it basically gets fuck all because the ground is barren effectively. Like
yeah,
the only reason anything grows is like insane amount of fertilizer on top of it. So it's like, sure, we grow more food with fewer resources, but the nutritional quality of that food is potentially not as great. It's like, you plant some heirloom tomatoes in like a little pot of dirt in your kitchen. They're gonna taste like 10 times better than stuff you buy in store. So, but we can't kind of scale it to the level of entire country. Like, how does that work? I don't know.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I started to have this paranoia. It's
Yeah.
paranoia, right? Like this kind of distrust in the food. I think when I did during the time I was doing um the diet, carnivore diet,
Mm-hmm.
and then I remember like at some point there was a lot of pressure to like, oh yeah, you cannot live on just meat. You have to add some vegetables. And I remember how I felt with the vegetables, like the first time you eat something different from beef. The vegetables kind of made me a little sick, you know. So I know like
Mm.
this didn't feel right. But I don't think I have enough proof to fight anything or like to defend any of
Yeah, you
this.
kind of you kind of just slide right back into the
Yeah,
normal and the
yeah,
regular.
yeah. But it is what it is. I hope.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope maybe at some point we get enough research, like quality, or maybe like I know there's some like existing ancient um treatment for certain things, like maybe like Chinese medicine, like
Yeah,
medicine, the Asian, and I think there even some from Africa too, but they didn't get mainstream. That I don't know, like so.
right, but like it's one thing to have that when you have more or less pristine ecology a couple of 100 years ago, and now with when we had like decades of like just letting shit burn right into the atmosphere without any regard for anything that was
Mm,
happening, you know?
yeah, and
So it's like what might have worked then, yeah. I don't know. You kind of, if you start looking into the incentive structure of things, you start understanding that it it cannot be any other way up until those incentives are changed. Because like uh you know, a hospital or like a medical care provider is not incentivized to make people healthy in the shortest amount of time possible. They're incentivized of keeping them sustained in their illness for as long as possible, because then, you know, they buy the drugs, they buy the treatment, they have to come to you all the time. It's like, you know, if you're very good, the joke is like if you're very good at your job, you will be out of job eventually, because like if the doctors heal everybody fully, they'll be out of a job. So they have to maintain some kind of status quo, right? Even though individually people might want to say like, yeah, I want to like eradicate all illnesses from the face of the earth, but it's like, yeah, but by doing that, you're also making yourself obsolete, you know? It's like
that's
all of
a
those AI researchers made themselves obsolete.
did they? Do you think so?
No, I'm kidding, but like they're uh, they're putting more and more effort into that situation where they do make themselves obsolete, right? Because like if they keep coming up with better AIs, eventually the AIs will replace them, and then they only have themselves to blame, right? They're kind of the same thinking behind it. It's it's the like the hallmark of not being able to see far enough in the future, and maybe not being able to see like second, third, fourth degree consequences of your actions. It's like a mechanic that like fixes something in your car but like loosens a bolt, so you have to come to him a month from now,
You
right?
know,
It's like
you
he's
know,
guaranteeing himself work in the future by being a shitty mechanic. So
well, when you said that, that kind of made me remember that I read something somewhere. I think it was Anthropic that said like they used a version of the AI to build a new one. So I think you might be right. You might be onto something there, Vasily. Like it's possible that these tools can actually like start replicating themselves.
well, they can start replicating themselves. Whether or not they can start improving themselves is that's a question, I guess. Because like there's so much prior art on, well, there is a degree of prior art on the internet about AI development, like all the models and the training sets and like various things.
Mhm.
So if you tell an AI to come up with better AI, it's not like it's thinking about it from scratch. It's like people were saying like, oh, you know, we asked this AI to re-implement this popular tool just from like blah blah blah, and it's like, yeah, but like there's so much source code out there, like what was it? They wanted to re-implement like an operating system kernel that is able to like do some basic system calls enough to print like "Hello World" if you run or produce a. I don't remember. I think it might have been produce like a binary. So instead of producing source code that then is compiled by something, it produces like a binary of some executable that prints "Hello World" or some crap like that. But basically, it's like they say, "Oh yeah, we totally did it," completely kind of sidestepping the fact that like there's all this source code and prior art in free and open, that your AI didn't really have to come up with it. It kind of just like pulled it from the depth of its training and produced it for you. So it's like subtly pulling wool over people's eyes. It's like it's not coming
Mm,
up with it from scratch. It's coming up with it because it has seen it before many times throughout its training, right?
mm.
So like it may be able to come up with like a semblance of itself, but whether or not it'll be able to come up with something better, that's the question. But like the point is, if you do your job well and make things last, you make yourself unnecessary, right? It's like before, you know, you buy an appliance, and appliance is serving you for like 30 years. Like our appliances are really old. Well, not like really old, but they're like old enough. And every time I go on YouTube, people say like, oh, if you have this particular brand of tumble dryer, like try to hold on to it for as long as possible, because that thing is like a workhorse and it'll never break. But like stuff you buy today is gonna break like 6 months from now, and you have to spend $1,000 to get a new one, right? So like everything follows the same pattern.
That's
Like
a.
your light bulb
Mhm.
burns out after 6 months, so you buy a new one, because like who the hell wants to, like, no company
Mhm.
wants to sell you a light bulb with infinite lifespan, even though they could.
That's scary though. Don't you think so?
No, it is, but if you start kind of going through the logical steps, I think one of the steps in there is going to be like the GDP line go up mentality. It's like,
Mhm.
as long as the GDP line goes up, we're good, right? And so, like, in order to make the GDP line go up, we can do all of these things. Like, we can sell all these appliances and cars that break as soon as like the warranty period expires. So you're forced to buy a new one, and therefore you're like forced to contribute to the economy. Therefore, GDP line goes up, right? But like,
Mhm.
is it good for all involved? Probably not. Like, it's just like all this unending waste. It's like, if I can buy a washing machine that lasts me 30 years and maybe I have to service it every once in a while, I'd rather buy that than a washing machine that like lasts for a year and then breaks. Or if I have to fix it, it costs more than a new one to fix it, right? But that would not make the GDP line go up, and so we're stuck in the situation. So it's the same everywhere. Like, you look at the incentives and you realize like it's the only way that it can be under the circumstances, because that's how everything is currently set up.
That
And
changes my perspective because now I was thinking this is just like on
it
medical
is
side.
rigged. It is rigged. It is effectively rigged. But I think that, well, the weird thing is that when people say that it's rigged, I think that kind of implies that there's some mustache twirling mastermind that
Mhm.
came up with it. But I think in reality, like, the responsibility is diffused across so many people. It's like, oh, my car, I don't know, the coolant pump broke right after the warranty period. And I can't point to the CEO of company and say, oh, in this email he said, okay, let's make our cooling pumps break immediately after exiting warranty period, right? Like,
So
okay,
you don't
that
think it's
happened.
intentional? You don't think it's intentional?
I think it's intentional, but it's not intentional in a way where it's deliberate. Like, okay, like if we look at the light bulb conspiracy from like 100 years ago, where the term planned obsolescence was originated, where they say, okay, we're selling light bulbs that are way too good, and we're losing future sales, because once people buy our light bulbs, they don't have to buy new ones, and we're not making any money. Once everybody buys our light bulbs, we'll have no market for our light bulbs to be sold on, because everyone
Mhm.
will be happy with what they have, right? So let's make them crappier. Like, in that case, you do have evidence of people high level positions saying, okay, we have to make them shittier in order to keep a market for ourselves, right? But I think these days it's like some engineering department says, oh, we need to save 35 cents on our bill of materials, and because we make 1 million cars a year, our profit margin is gonna increase or whatever. So some engineer says, okay, there's this little metal ball that like controls this governor valve, and I'm gonna replace it with a plastic ball because it's pretty much the same, but like it's good enough and it like hits that target for savings. And then the car breaks immediately after the warranty period expires, because the plastic part is shittier than the metal part, but it costs slightly less. So it's not like, again, there's like not some evil villain twirling his mustache and be like, ha ha ha, we're gonna screw you over. It's like, we're just optimizing ourselves to death. We're like cutting the costs so much that, and it all kind of works out for all involved except the end user that has to buy a new car or like pay $5,000 to get that part fixed. It's like, uh, Mazda does not design
Mhm.
their engine casing such that like if, in order to undo one bolt you have to like disassemble half the car. It just came out evolutionarily through the design process, so that in the end user is completely fucked by it, but none of the intermediate steps had like some evil intent. At least I don't know. Maybe
You know
I'm
what?
wrong. Maybe people are shittier than I give them credit to, and they deliberately do these things.
I I somewhat believe it that people actually like that. So the way I was looking at it
Mm-hmm.
before you just made this point is that I was kind of like just scoping it down to medical science, just thinking like this is what it is. But when you bring it to engineering, I'm thinking engineering is so delicate as well that if you don't do well, and I think we have some like standardization or something like this, quality control and stuff like this that is supposed to make all these things work good, at least have a certain level of quality, right? Because otherwise, I'm thinking there's some type of engineering that could really impact a lot of lives. For example, civil engineering or like mechanical engineering or like, even software engineering. Like you don't want to be um, responsible for this kind of like um, issues, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking there are people who put extra effort to make sure like the what we have is quality, but in terms of like um, the market part, like when it comes to like making money from it, I mean, I think it will make sense if you think of it like this logically, but I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if, like you said, I don't know if there is like some people but in medical science, there are some documentaries that actually show that indeed there are some people who actually sit somewhere to say, let us do this so we can keep people coming back. Um, I don't have
Yeah,
proof,
no, for sure. Like
but
people pushing opioids onto people and like saying, "Oh yeah, it's totally fine. You'll be okay," you know.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there are some people who actually like push certain propagandas just to keep business going.
Yeah.
And this is my concern. But if we're keeping it to engineering, I'm thinking like, for example, like I know like light bulb, for example, I don't even think it's possible for it to last forever. I mean,
Well,
maybe.
they used to be really really good. Even with LED lamps these days, like if they put like extra LEDs onto the motherboard and drive them just like 20% lower current, so you get like the same light output,
Mhm,
but you drive them with like less current, so it's like
mhm.
less heat and less. They would last considerably longer
Mm,
than they do right now, but that's like a whole extra LED, which means the parts cost goes up, right? And again,
interesting.
if it lasts longer, you're not likely to buy them as often. So again, it's like the market incentive is there to make it just marginally not shitty enough so it fails immediately, but like usable so you keep buying and keep coming for more.
What, but I think I mean, if I was involved in this kind of decision, I think the better decision would have been to probably increase the price. Like,
But then
like,
the price is a signal. Like it's like the whole dollar store business model. You know, dollar store like Dollarama and things like
mhm,
that. Like stuff you buy there per 100 grams or like per some fixed unit is more
mhm,
expensive than stuff you buy everywhere else. But because they sell it in smaller packages, you have a sense that you're
mm,
saving money even though you're not. Like you may pay, I don't know, you may, I don't know, you buy like laundry detergent, and instead of buying like a gallon jug of it for $12, you buy like a tiny little thing for $3. So you feel like, oh, I just spent $3, but you get like not you don't get like a
mm,
quarter worth of detergent. You get like maybe an eighth or a 16th because it's just packaged into smaller thing but sold for more money. So in your mind, you go to dollar store like, oh, everything's a buck or two. Yeah, it is, but you're getting way less of it. So if you shop there thinking you're saving money, you're actually burning through money. You'd be better off going to Costco and getting a gallon jug that will serve you for like half a year, as opposed to having to go there and buy one every month. You know,
interesting.
it's the same idea.
Well,
Like if they made the light bulb more expensive, a lot of people would be like, I'm not willing to pay for a higher quality light bulb that will last me longer because I don't know about all of those things. All I see is like this one is $10 and this one is $15 and they look the same. I'm going to go with the $10 one, even though that could have served me for 5 years and this is going to serve me for 2. So I end up overpaying in the end. But that's like a future me problem.
Interesting. I mean, this
Yeah.
kind of like adds to the directions of thinking, because now I was thinking about it in only one perspective, just from the consumer perspective. But now that I'm thinking about it from the producer's perspective, too, maybe that could be a reason. But nonetheless, I think the value of life itself is worth more than should be worth more than money. You know.
Well, I agree with you, but then there's MAiD. You know, so how much is a life really worth over here in Kanakistan, where, what is it, every 20th death in Canada can be attributed to MAiD or something crazy like that? It's like literally, you're too expensive for a medical healthcare system, so why don't you just die?
That's deep. That's deep, Vasili. That's deep. Let's not go into that's deep, because
Someone recently said, like, at least it's honest. Like, they don't have enough money to keep their populace safe, and they're like, well, if you die, then we don't have to spend money on you. Whereas in other countries, they'll probably just not do anything and like keep you with your chronic condition. I mean, it's very morbid, and everybody told that this is where it's gonna end up when it was being pushed back like 10, however many years ago, 14 years ago. I don't remember, but recently I saw this video. It was like a CBC video or something. It's like a Canadian news on YouTube. And it was like a short video about how Premier Daniel Smith of Alberta is making provincial changes so that, you know, MAiD has to have more specific qualifications for it. And I imagine it, I don't know, I hope it's bots, because half the comments were like, how dare they tell us that the government is not allowed to kill us of that nature. And I was just sitting there like, what the fuck, you know? So it's really bizarre. It's really bizarre.
Yeah.
Like literally half the comments like, oh my God, why aren't they allowing people to get MAiD? You know, they always go for like, oh, some poor person with cancer is not going to be able to, you know, die with dignity or whatever, which I don't know. I think the phrase in itself is kind of a misnomer. I don't think there's any dignity in it whatsoever.
Well,
but then, you know, it gets expanded to all these other demographics that have nothing to do with like some chronic illness. And, you know, it's fucked. I don't know. I don't even want to think about it too much.
yeah,
But
it's
you know,
kind of dark.
there's all these jokes, you know, like you go to some coffee shop and you get like a punch card, and like every 10th purchase you get something for free. So there was this joke. It's like in Canada, every 10th visit to a doctor you get a MAiD for free.
Ooh. Well, see, that's dark. Honestly, that's dark. Let's not go there, because that would take us very.
Yeah, but you know, that's the reality in which my daughter is going to be growing up. So I have to kind of navigate around it and be like, okay, like how do we deal with that? You know?
Does it scare you?
It does in a way. I mean,
to be specific, which part scares you? Like the medical science part, or like the fact that capitalism kind of chooses money over life?
I would say the callous disregard for human lives. Like, okay, like it's one of those things that like I can't definitively say whether it's good or bad in itself. Like I've read some people, some famous-ish people who like have some sort of, like this guy, he wrote a couple of books. He was like an engineer. He wrote a book about psychopaths. It was quite an interesting book. But like he had some sort of cancer, and he chose to take his own life because he thought that would be best for him and everyone surrounded. He didn't want to wither away in pain for months and months and months. And on an individual level, you can understand and respect that. So I can't say like, oh, it should be completely banned. I don't know. If you want to do it, you know, do it yourself. But at the same time, the way that it's done currently, where it's just like, oh yeah, yeah, totally, we can do it tomorrow if you want, type deal, you know? Because eventually all the restrictions get. It's funny. There's so many parallels. I was just thinking when we were talking about light bulbs. I was thinking about like it's like you have a MacBook charger that costs like $80, and then you go on Amazon and there's gonna be a charger just like it visually for like $10. And it's just like, yeah, because some clever engineer somewhere in China stripped like 80% of all the internal electronics and protections and filters that makes this power supply reliable and good. And now they're able to sell it for $10, but it may set your house on fire, right? Because like
Occasionally.
occasionally it's like, okay, we have this thing that costs $80, or maybe it doesn't cost 80, but like it costs $80. How many parts can we remove so it still works but cost us like $70? Because that's a $10 worth of free money, right, from every unit sold. And eventually they get it to a stage where it like barely holds on together and kind of pretends to do what it's supposed to do, but it's only $10. And the same thing here. At first we're like, okay, there's all these stringent requirements. You have to have like 2 independent assessments from 2 independent psychiatrists saying that like you are of sound mind and you are like an adult with power over yourself and you can make that kind of decision. You have to have this like horrible illness that there's like zero chance of you recovering from. And then eventually they just like whittle away at all of these protections, and soon it turns into a future where you have like a, like in Futurama, there's like a suicide booth that you throw a quarter in and you just go in and you're done with, right? Like it's just a natural evolution of the thing, and we're like halfway through. So
Yeah.
maybe opening the door to it was the mistake. It's like Pandora's box. Like once you open it, you can't put it back together again. You can't put it back in a box. It's forever with us. It's kind of like AI. We opened that door and now it's with us, and we're never putting it back.
Yeah,
So
it's
like,
not going away. This one is not, you know what? This one is not even going away. And I think the part that was funny recently with the recent news around it was like now these tools are now being used by government even for like war and stuff. So I think which one of them submitted their tool to support the war? I think it was the
yeah. But like, I mean, if you've seen a picture of a Roomba with like a knife duct tape to it, you could see it coming from like 20 years ago.
like honestly these things I don't know like I was talking recently. I feel like you work in tech for a while, and at some point you start to have a lot of um how do you say that, like you start to have a lot of paranoia,
You
like
become
you
jaded, I guess.
yeah, you start to see things that you know that this is ethically wrong, and yeah,
You are
it's not.
contributing to your own destruction. I think I might have brought it up before some point in time, that series on MTV back in the day, the animated series Eon Flux, about like these two states in perpetual war with one another, and like the protagonist is like working at a factory when she like makes some widgets and has no like, it's just like an assembly line. She's like making widgets, and then further down the line she gets like shot by some automated turret, and then she realizes that like the widgets that she was making in the factory were part of the turret that shot her because she's like secretly like a terrorist
Yeah.
agitator or whatever.
Yeah, this is
You
how
know.
this is how I think at some point, like if you work well, I say this, but maybe you probably already feel like this because somehow you feel like you're kind of contributing to some of these things anyway, and you you do, you just do, and but you cannot really. Anyway, I should stop here
Well,
because
yeah, it's like, what are you gonna do? Go live in the woods?
yeah, it's a scary thing to think about, but it is what it is. Anela, we are already here, and maybe we try to see the positive side of it and just stick to that. Because like if you
Yeah.
start to think about all the things that could go wrong, that might go wrong, um, like for sure, it's a scary thing to think about.
Is this why a capitalization of Netflix is like in the billions? Because it's a massive engine to provide people with distractions so they don't have to think about these things on a daily basis?
Could be. That's a point. Could be. Especially now that I'm learning more about these streaming services, and now that they are getting more mainstream, start to see like this is the main source of how to push ideas. They just
Oh
need to
yeah.
make a movie that is very engaging, and then you forget what is really like your values because now you see it in a movie and then you start to absorb values.
But
Nowadays,
the,
people,
the, the amount of propaganda in like modern shows is just so insanely over the top. It's crazy. It's just like once you learn to spot it, it's literally everywhere.
exactly. This is where I am right now. Like you just start to see things and you like I see this in every movies now. And yeah,
It's like,
it's no
what did
longer
they mean by that?
yeah. It's just there's too many things to but
But
if you
allegedly, the second season of the One Piece live action adaptation is really good, so who cares?
well, at least there's still some entertainment in there. But still, it doesn't change the fact that it kind of changes your mind and the way you see. So, like, there are some people who are in control of how you see life. This is my fear, you know.
Yeah,
But and then if you work on Netflix, you kind of contribute to it. But would you
yeah.
not? You have to
Well, I
do
mean,
what you
okay,
have to
like
do.
if you build the streaming infrastructure,
Mhm.
like you are contributing to it, but like you're not so far when it comes to streaming infrastructure itself. There like isn't too many ideological decisions, ideologically based decisions you can make. It's like, okay, here's your server, here's your bytes, like push them down the pipe as fast as you can, you know. So like you read some engineering blogs from Netflix about how they like optimize their AV1 encoder so they get like the least possible payload for highest possible quality for like some target resolution. It's like, this is all very cool. The thing is like the content of those bytes, however, that's not so cool. So I don't know.
That's it. You
It's
see,
like
this is
you
this
can be
is.
proud of your engineering achievement,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's like I don't know. I'm a dispatcher of a railway in 1940s Germany, and I'm very proud that the trains run on time. You know?
You see, that's what I was gonna say because if you really look at Netflix, I feel like they might have been at the forefront of like a lot of um technological advancement in terms of like
Yeah. Well, I
streaming
think
in general.
they kind of made AWS what
Yeah,
it is in a lot of ways too.
to be honest, it's very, very commendable. I feel like if you really look into like how they started and like it is, but my concern here is like the content that are being consumed from these places. This is where we are. So, but I don't know
Yes,
if they have control over it.
they probably don't. But I was gonna say, like, it is very commendable. They made AWS what it is, so now when it falls apart, half of the internet can all die at the same time. So good job, guys.
Yeah,
You really
yeah.
made a difference to everybody.
To be honest, like, yeah, that's the thing. And I was gonna say like you changed the way I think you expanded my mind, the way I was thinking about things like this before, because I was thinking mostly about like consumers, like oh yeah, like, but now I'm thinking about the business side of it, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I would like hold them exactly responsible for it. I think they do their job in like streaming. When it comes to streaming, they do good with like streaming. But for the content, which is what we're actually criticizing, I don't know. Well, it is what it is in the end. So
Yeah.
we'll
I
see.
mean, yeah.
We'll
It's
see
like,
what.
it's like the whole fast fashion thing that was like in 2010s. Oh, I can buy a t-shirt for like $4. And then an industrial building in Bangladesh collapses onto itself, like killing 300 people who were making
Mhm.
those shirts in there because
Mhm.
everybody didn't give a shit about like safety or maintenance or anything like that. And you're like, you enjoyed those shorts for $4, like what are you gonna say,
Yeah, you can't really complain. You
You can't
cannot.
really complain, exactly. And I really like watching random videos where people like really know what they're doing, even though like I have nothing to do with the thing. Like for instance, I stumbled upon this channel and the guy is like, I guess he's a tailor, you would say. but he like sews professionally, like talks about like garments and stuff. And I found this other channel, and they were talking about t-shirts and like different kinds of cotton and how it's like spun and like all these different processes that companies can do to like make them more expensive or like less expensive, and like the things to look out for. And the guy's like really knowledgeable about it. And it was like, it's like, yeah, like you can buy premium products, and then there's also like cheap products because they skip like all of these steps. They use like cheaper inputs, and they like skip certain things, and they like, you know, so you kind of get what you pay for. And then it's like, but you know, some companies for marketing, they would say these things, and even though technically they're kind of true, they're not really true, but they're only true on the surface. And it's just like, oh fuck, come on.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know.
So yeah, it's like the problem with it is that like you have to become an expert in everything you interface with if you want the best possible results, or if you don't, and nobody has time and resources for that. And I think that's why, like, you know, people with like weird hobbies, they get like all in on that hobby because like there's so much to learn about that one thing, and there's like infinity things surrounding you. You know, like those coffee snobs. They're like, "Ooh, I'm gonna buy a grinder for $2,000 because it like marginally improves the flavor of my coffee in the morning." And you kind of have to get to that level about so many things that you use. So, or I guess you find some source that you would consider to be authoritative, and you defer to them. But the problem with that is that they get captured very quickly. Like all the travel blogs. You know, all the travel blogs that are now, all of them are owned by like fucking Expedia or whatever. And it starts with like, oh, you know, I'm like, I worked 20 years in IT, and now I want to chill out and downshift and go travel Southeast Asia, and I have a blog, and I post these pictures, and I post like all of these different places to go. And then eventually somebody comes out of the woodwork. It's like, we'll sponsor you if you send them our way. And then it all turns to shit. So it's like,
I feel like you know what? It changed. You know what? You're right. You're right.
sorry to burst your bubble, Mo.
It changes a lot about, because I was thinking that the issue was that people were not like respecting quality of lives, and it was, I guess in the end, it's kind of going back to the same thing. I was thinking there are some people somewhere who is genuinely not respecting quality of life, but in the end, I also think like there is also some blame on the consumer side too, because yeah, we are not doing enough to examine the kind of things that we consume as well. Like,
Right,
for
but
example,
that's, yeah, okay, yeah, go ahead.
for example, for a long time, I've been this kind of this is good. So one time, I remember like there was a lot of noise about Twitter, X, whatever they call it now. Yeah, like, and people were saying like Elon should ban um explicit content on Twitter. Like we should not have explicit content on social media and stuff like this. And that didn't happen. I don't think it has happened. And if you look at this is okay. So this is in tech space, right? Like if you also look from Elon's point of view, this kind of brings people to the platform. So
Yeah,
he
look what
wants
happened to
people.
Tumblr after they banned all the explicit content off of it. Where's Tumblr
Yeah,
now? It's dead.
you see, so people were saying like, oh yeah, there are children here, like they should not be exposed to stuff like this. But in the end, you have to look at the business too. And now the question is, how do we even save ourselves like from this? Because TikTok a while ago was like very um strict with like contents like this, but then recently there are like videos coming out of TikTok where people are doing the worst on live streams and stuff like this, and nothing is happening. And
Yeah.
there, especially on there, there's like a lot of like children, teenagers, young people who say they are learning stuff from TikTok. I feel like this is one of the the first red flag that I see in a conversation. It's not a red flag. It's just like I see you differently if you tell me like, oh yeah, you're learning from TikTok. I'm not saying you can't. It's just like there are so many other
It's
ways
like,
you can learn stuff.
hmm,
But I'm looking at
very
you
suspicious.
like I'm just like, well, I guess if you say you're learning, then you are. It's just it is
It's
what it
like
is.
it's like that meme about how you like it's COVID and you go to your university remotely and like half the girls in your class have ultra HD 4K cameras for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Suspicious.
yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I guess we ended up our conversation in a very different way. I had planned to ask you a different question today. Like I had something in mind. I was gonna
It went
ask you.
somewhere entirely.
Yeah, it
What were
went
you gonna
somewhere.
ask me?
I was gonna ask you about like what you think about. So, for example, like if you work in a private company, right? Like, you know how sometimes you sign like documents about like, oh, you cannot work with like a competitor or stuff like this, and you cannot
Yeah.
have your own company to compete with the company. But let's say you have an idea on something that you think can actually bring business to your company. But would you would you want to share with your company, or would you want to implement this idea when you can? Like, how
Hmm.
do you feel like, oh, um,
It's weird because I've seen like so many examples of it's like you can't you can't build a business by building on top of somebody else's platforms. And I'm not speaking like about AWS because AWS is like
mhm,
it's just an infrastructure provider. But like you know back in the day there was like all these companies trying to like interface with like Twitter and LinkedIn and like building using their data effectively and they like build a product out of it and there's only two ways out of it or three ways I guess. One way is that they just shut you down. They're like cease and desist, you're infringing, you know,
mhm.
f off, so you're done. The second one is uh oh we can just I guess there's they just close the API. They don't even have to cease and desist you. They just close the API and you're dead.
Mhm.
Or they look at it and a lot of people, I remember there were people who would like build these things on top of these other platforms, I guess in hope of getting acquired. But then the company just throws like 10 engineers for 3 months and build it themselves. So they don't have to acquire you for like millions and millions of dollars. They just have like a little bit of headcount for a couple of months and then they have that feature and then you're dead again. I remember literally sitting at the Amazon reInvent conference in 2014 and the guy, what's his name, he's like prancing around on stage. I think they were announcing something like Kinesis or something. It was just like some sort of massive data streaming and processing platform. And I distinctly heard from like one row before somebody says, oh, fuck, and started like dialing somebody because it felt to me like they built something like it and Amazon just built it in house and like destroyed their business like
Oh,
that. So if you think that you have something that can
mm,
improve on top of your employer's business and you can build it by yourself and capitalize on it, probably not.
no, no. Would you even suggest it to your employer? If
You could, you could. Um, the thing is I guess that depends on which level you are, like how much pull you have, and again, like most of the rank and file, nobody really shares operational priorities. It's like, oh, we're intending to build this thing 6 months from now or whatever, or you don't have like the visibility into the direction of your company as much. You're just like doing your Jira tickets, right? So you don't even know what fit you may think it adds to the business and it might not in a slightest, right? Like you're not at the level where I guess you would have enough visibility and intelligence
what if you
so that you
do?
can
Like,
huh?
let's say you do. Let's say you do. Like, let's say you do. Like, Say for
Well, like,
example, you
so what
are
happens if you pitch it, they either say yes or they say no. And if they say yes,
okay. Let me paint this. So the source of this idea is that I think we were thinking I was hanging out with some guys like not too long ago, and we were
yeah,
having a conversation about like capitalism mostly, and we're talking about like how
capitalism.
yes yeah capital, well, it is what it is, and we're talking about how like sometimes you could have like ideas but you cannot really work on this idea because probably you signed some subcontract or some things that kind of hold you back, that oh you can't do this for certain period of years. And this is pretty common in our industry, right? Like oh intellectual
Yeah, it
intellectual
is.
business.
I,
And
I think it kind of subsided a little bit because people change their employers so often these days that like
Mhm.
trying to weigh somebody down with that stuff isn't really gonna fly.
I
But
mean,
fair enough. Like
yeah,
let's say you do have some clause that would
let's say
prevent you
let's
from
say
doing it.
let's say um but and then we were talking about it and we were like, instead of you branching out yourself to do or
To
implement this
pursue that.
idea, pursue
Yeah.
this idea, being, I mean, I know we sometimes talk about loyalties, but like
Loyalty. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
being loyal to your own company. Like, what if you share this idea with the company and and it makes them more money, or probably they end up
It might
implementing
make
it.
them more money. I seriously doubt that it will make you more money though.
I mean, yeah, this is where I'm coming from. You see, this is where, and this is it. So, because it doesn't make you more money, would you still share it? Because technically, by legally, you cannot really work on it.
Right.
You cannot actually work on it legally because if you work with like serious companies, they can come to you with like a bunch of lawyers and they stick
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
what
yeah,
you
yeah.
actually
No,
did. So,
I get that part. Yeah.
but the idea exists. So, do you share it because it helps your company, or do you
How
keep it to
much do you
yourself?
want to resent that decision later? Let's say you come up with some great idea and you come to them and they implement it and it makes the company millions and they never share any of them with you. Like, how miffed are you gonna be then? You know?
In my
You would feel
present,
righteously,
Mhm.
you would feel like you own it and that you should be compensated, but they can point to some paragraph in your contract and be like, anything you come up with during your time with us belongs to us, fuck off, right? And
Yeah,
maybe they're magnanimous enough that they give you something. Maybe not. Most likely not, because why would they? They are not legally obligated to. And
but
like,
does
I
this
don't
keep
know.
mindset of like, so for example, like if you work at, so if you put this like compared to like a startup company, let's say Google, a company like Google or like a giant tech company don't lose much from like this kind of ideas. But like a company that is like mid-size or some sort, like, do you think this type of mindset is keeping those companies stagnant? Because if you don't promise, if if people cannot really like feel um like,
I see what you mean. I see
oh
what you
you get
mean.
it, like they don't feel like,
I no, yeah, I think I get. You're basically saying like, because people don't have any incentives to come up with these things, they
Mhm.
won't,
Yeah,
or very few will. But I think it's also more complicated because you might have that idea, but like there's a lot of costs associated with implementing it. Maybe they don't implement it exactly like it is, and you would feel entitlement to like 100% because it was your idea, right? But in the end, like a bunch of people have to contribute to it. Like unless it's a scenario where you just like ninja code it over a couple of weeks and just present it and be like, ta-da, here's it's done, and it's like fully featured and actualized, and then immediately starts making company money, and then they say, okay, attaboy, here's like your bonus check or whatever, or here's some gratuity in perpetuity or whatever. I think it might be more complicated than that, and I think like the legal tangle, like how would you even describe it in a contract that like if your employee comes up with something, uh I've been getting these shorts for this movie about a guy who like invented Doritos or something. He was like a Mexican janitor working
Doritos.
for one of the chip companies, and
Okay.
it's been on my feed like a bunch. And basically, he comes up with this flavoring that they make Doritos out. I haven't seen the actual movie, but it's supposed to be like this feel good story about a guy who works there as a janitor. He has this brilliant idea. The company is kind of dying, and then he goes to CEO. He pitches it. They implement it because they're dying anyway, so who gives a shit? And suddenly it becomes like super popular, and like everybody's buying it, and everybody's making millions. And in the end, I don't even know like how much money they gave him. I guess by the tone and tenor of the movie, they probably like kind of promoted him to like some senior role, and he got a cushy salary out of it. But like those cases, like how would you set it up in your legal contract that if you invent something, you're entitled to like a portion of proceeds? Like how is that to be judged? Like how is your percentage of your entitlement is to be determined? Maybe you overheard somebody say that idea, and
Okay.
now they come up and say it's actually my idea, or your idea was like this seed that had to go through like a bunch of iterations that ended up being something different, but you still feel entitled to it. I think it's just much easier for them to say like, no, it's just ours. You know, we're done. Because again, like the convenience of it, the short-term convenience of it wins, and long-term, we don't know how many things were not realized because of those decisions. You know those memes about like future if, and it's like flying cars and like all these like
Mhm.
fancy buildings. It's like we could have been living in that future if that was the case, but we'll never know because we'll never know.
I generally have this mindset right now that this type of things kind of keeps a lot of companies stagnant. Like I feel like if you read about like these giant companies right now, they started from like small ideas and they don't do one thing. So
Yeah.
they have like different branches of like products, like different branches of like ideas, and these ideas may not even be from the CEO's
Mm-hmm.
bank. Could be from a regular person in the company who has an idea and shared it with someone and something like this and probably like developed it. But the fact that you want to keep all the profit, like all the
Mm-hmm.
proceed, you don't give incentive to innovation, like genuine innovation in the company.
Well,
And
I mean, there's still a bunch of startups. I see your point about like the legal preventing you from doing it, but usually I think that like either I think the legal contract normally protects them from you poaching their clients or poaching their know-how or like copying their product or something like that. So if your idea is different enough, it's probably not going to be covered by that. Like because you're not building exactly the same thing, you're not stealing their clients, and
oh
like
no,
if they can prove that like some knowledge that you obtain there that is like internal and secret knowledge, and you're building your product based on that knowledge, then you could be in trouble. But if you just comment on something that is like tangential to it, I don't know, it's really hard to say.
for example, right? Let's say you work in I mean, your industry right now is the wellness, health and wellness, right?
Well, digital pharmacy.
Okay. Let's say you work in the digital pharmacy industry
It's
and
allegedly health and wellness, yeah.
so I mean, I don't know, but let's say you have a contract that says you cannot work for another digital pharmacy,
Mm-hmm.
another company in this industry,
Yeah.
um, for the next 10
3 years,
years,
5 years, yeah, okay.
whatever, like yeah, some years. This is common in our industry. Like they do this, like they kind of sneak it into the contract somewhere. And the idea that you're thinking about, you probably know, like, if you don't. And the thing about ideas is, like, you're not the only one thinking about it. So someone else probably is thinking about it. And maybe the first to market actually wins the market. And if you keep this type of idea, I guess it protects your company from like competitors. So like, oh, because you worked in our company, now you know how this works, so you're gonna go build your own stuffs like this. And maybe this is why it's common. But I feel like it should not be that strict in our industry because people people especially like in the engineering side of it, like we are in the kitchen actually doing the cooking, can
Yeah.
tell like how you can add more stuffs. Like you can
Yeah.
get more.
I would agree with you. It's kind of the same idea that like you get an intern and then you train him over like a couple of years, 3, 5 years into like a solid senior developer, and now he says, "Well, thank you for all the training. I'm gonna go and work somebody else for more money now." And like you just can't chain a person to the desk, right? Like they have to be able to be free to pursue
Oh my
those
God,
decisions, right?
capitalism, man. Oh my God. It's about money.
But like with all the bad that comes out of it, there's still plenty good coming out of it. So while not perfect, it's still better than most, I would
Would you
say.
do it? Like if you own a company right now, would you have this type of contract for your employees? I think it protects you in a way, but what's your opinion?
It's really hard to say, you know. It's like, and I don't want to be hypocritical because like, you know, we talked about how like open source is like the most communist thing out there
Mhm,
possible. And
mhm.
I'd like to say that I would or whatever, but at the same time, I don't know. It's it it's an interesting question. I think I'd have to think about it a little bit more.
Yeah. No,
Like it's one of those things where I can't have a definitive answer off the top of my head. Like I would actually have to consider it. I'd probably have to like debate the merits of it with somebody and like be the devil's advocate for and against to kind of see what potential outcomes could be. Like what if they come up with some idea that like completely destroys my business in the process and I allowed it to happen? Would I be like, well, I mean, I did allow it to happen, so wah wah, you know, or do I want to protect my livelihood and that of my friends and family or whoever
fair enough.
and
Fair
not
enough.
allow that, right? Like I still like I still have to protect my own interests. You just can't like you can't let them degenerate into something just evil, you know? When we were talking about like light bulbs and stuff, I was thinking like, does Apple really need to serialize their screen so that if you take their screen from one phone to the other, it'll show you like a middle finger saying like, yeah, you can do that. It's identical piece of hardware. Like, why do you care? Let people repair your shit. And they did it because they want to retain full control. But that borders into the territory of being a dick. Like they don't have to do it. They have plenty money enough so they don't have to do it, but they did it anyway.
Interesting.
And like
Yeah.
car manufacturers, like electric car manufacturers doing some similar shit, or like freaking, what's his name? John Deere, the agricultural equipment maker, where anything that breaks, you have to wait for their guy to fly out to you to connect his computer to punch in some unlock code because you swapped some part, but the thing doesn't start because you know you change. Oh, you change. It has to be authorized services only. And like you're in the middle of harvest and your thing craps out. Yeah, you have to wait 3 weeks for a guy to fly to you and charge you $5,000 to punch in some unlock code. Did they have to do that? No, but they did it anyway. So they're kind of being a dicks. But like, what are you gonna do? Like buy from some other company? You could, but you won't because
Yeah.
reasons. I don't know.
Yeah.
Their salesman gave you a really good rebate. Uh,
Yeah.
so like you can be good. Like if somebody in your company comes up with an idea, you can reward them for it. But the problem is like any kind of idealistic founder, like you can be an idealistic founder. You can have some great design with humanitarian mission in mind, and you want to do things right. And then you solicit external investment, and now you have board of directors, and now they're thinking about their duty to the shareholders. And you can't do all of those things because that will reduce the duty to the return to the shareholder. Therefore, they're legally not obligated to let you do that. If your charter of your company says that you must increase the shareholder's value, and you're going to give this guy $100 million because he came with the idea, and the shareholder's value tanks briefly in a moment, you're legally not allowed to do that. So, So, you can be like Elon Musk. You can make a bunch of money on some deal and then spend it whichever way, take the company private and be as idealistic as you want internally, as long as you're spending your own money. But as soon as he sells it to somebody else, they can entirely wreck that entire model and like be technically within their right to do it, right? So like, I think these things can only happen in the time of like the first generation founder who has his hands on the pulse and has enough business acumen like to take it forward all the way and be able to be idealistic about it in some ways. But how many cases like that do we see these days? Not many, because usually it's all like board of directors and shareholders, this and whatever. So again, it is what it is.
It is what it is, indeed.
Build the company, be that guy, see how it works out for you. Hopefully it works out well.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, if
like I was like a number 3 in a company, like a number 3 employee in a company when I was young, and I have 1,000 common shares. Meanwhile, the guys who founded it have hundreds of thousands worth of shares. So even though I was like number 3, and internally I may feel some kind of entitlement to their success because like I was there at the very, very early on, but the only thing I've contributed is my time. Like I did not put any money down or anything like that, right? So they get to reap 99% of all the benefit, and I get 1,000 common shares that probably gonna cost $500 someday if I'm so lucky. Should I be pissed off about it? Some people say like, yeah, you deserve more. You should go and like bang your fist on a table and demand for your birthright or whatever. And maybe they're right, and maybe I'm right. I don't know. I agreed to it. When I signed on a dotted line, those terms seemed okay to me at the moment because I was younger and more naive and did not understand how the world works. And I did not really care. Now, in retrospect, maybe I should have cared a little bit more. But hey, what's done is done, right?
Yeah. I guess, I mean, this part you said is just to be careful about the type of contracts that you sign. But in the end,
but when you're 20 and out of college, you'll sign anything just to get a job, right?
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair. This is not. It's not the you thing. I think it's a general thing. I think
it's a general thing. Exactly.
This is even when you're 40, you still sign some contracts that is kind of shit, but it puts food on your table. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. In the end,
it is what it is.
I guess. The answer I'm gonna take to my question is just to check with your questions, because I feel like in the end, the reason why you're not gonna share this kind of idea with your company is probably because
like which choice are you gonna regret the least?
Exactly, right.
Would be the approach, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's again, that's like speculating on your future state. It's like, how can I tell what I'm gonna regret in 10 years? You don't know. Yes. So it's like, I think I also brought it up before. It's like they did this experiment where they had people to like purchase art, and one group, they basically said, okay, once you purchase this art, you can't return it. It's with you forever, basically, right? Like you can't exchange it, you can't return it. And then the second half of the people in the group, like they had like a 90-day, within 90 days you can exchange it if you don't like it. And then after some time has passed, they would basically ask people how much they enjoy the art that they purchased. And all of the people who had no option of returning it were way happier with it than the ones that had the option to return it. Because I guess you always second guess yourself. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you make that decision, you
Do
made
it.
that decision. Like, stick with it. Like, don't waste time on pointless regrets 10 years down the line. It's like you
Exactly.
made that decision under circumstances. That's it. Done. Forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. Anyway, thank you, Vasili. Yeah, it was a really good conversation today. Honestly, yeah, I didn't even think I didn't plan for the medical one, but this is good. It kind of
Yeah.
expanded my view on this, and I think it can exactly, and it kind of like I see it across all boards now because I was just really focusing on medical science, and I think I started to look at it since the time of the pandemic, and I started to see like some people who come up with there were several information that came out during this time, and a lot of things that came out during this time that I
Yeah.
mean
It's
I
very weird because what was happening with it should have opened a lot of eyes to how full of shit mainstream information is.
yeah
But I feel like it did it for a very few people. I really think that a lot of people basically choose to do the blah 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 can't hear you thing now. Even though now, like, it's like today's conspiracy theory is going to be completely vindicated 30 days from now to be true, as happened with so many different things around those times. Like,
yeah
everything
yeah
that people said ended up being true, and no, but I don't feel like I feel like it should have made a bigger impact overall, and I think it did make an impact on small proportion of people. But for the majority of people, it didn't really make any impact whatsoever. They
yeah
stay willfully ignorant and happy about it. So, well, you
it
can
is what
bring the
it
horse to
is.
water,
No,
but
I
you
beg
can't make it
it.
drink.
It is what it is. I just know like there are certain people who make certain statements. I don't think they can come to the media anymore to continue talking, but they already did, and it's already anyway. It's in the past, and you start to like associate this with like some of the things that we call research, like
Yeah.
some of the things that, for example, I was saying nutritional. Honestly, nutritional research. I think these people in this industry should do better, to expand their research and like actually try to do better, if they
Well,
could. But
maybe JFK will make them.
I don't know. I'm not judging or holding anybody back. I just feel like, yeah,
But like,
if you
like unless you make people do better, what percentage of people have an innate desire to do better?
that is exactly what I'm trying to suggest. Like, like, because, like I said, I gave an example about MSG, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
also brought the example about cholesterol.
Yeah.
And I even, where I come from, like this, if you say something about cholesterol, everyone is thinking about death immediately. Literally,
Exactly.
cholesterol
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is synonymous to
Because
this.
that was like the first idea they heard on a subject, and it fully imprinted, and now it's impossible to shift it out of there.
and this kind of thing is absorbed religiously. Like you take this kind of mindset
Yeah.
religiously, like you
Yeah, yeah,
pass it
yeah,
down
yeah.
to generations to generation.
It's dogma. It's dogma. You
and
can't
and
question it.
exactly, so the things you call research is supposed to be research. It's supposed to be church, take it to church, value church, like fact. But then you come like a few years later to say, oh, oops,
Well,
somebody says
in in
something,
in all fairness, you can't, like, you have to give researchers the opportunity to be wrong. Like, you can't force them to be perfect. You can strive to like eliminate external influences and eliminate bias to some degree, but like like the whole point of scientific method is that like if a theory doesn't work, we come up with a better one. We can't say like, oh, you have to come up with correct things off the rip, otherwise, you know.
True, true. But this is where it gets blurry for me. For me, there are some people that you hold like, so for example, um, we are not doctors, right? Like we work in a different industry.
Yeah.
So if
How
you
many
talk to
Dr. Fauci plushes do you own?
if you say something about like, oh, um some drugs or something like this, I mean, I don't expect everyone to take your word for it. Like, people should do more research on like what you said, because this is not what you do. This, you probably learned about it, and you might actually be right in what you're saying. It's just people are not expected to like accept everything you say. But if
Yeah.
you say something about software engineering, then you know what you're saying.
Well, because
This
I'm in my
is
lane, right? Like I
yeah,
know about it, so I
exactly.
can have a qualified opinion on it.
You understand what I'm
But
saying? So now there's some
for certain things, you can make logical derivations, and even though you're not an expert in a field, you can have a chain of reasoning that is still correct, even though you're not an
exactly,
expert in a field. Yeah.
exactly. But my own situation is that there are certain people who are expected to have this you spend so much tax money or so much money on this research, and this is not research that you do on ChatGPT or something like this, like you just like print it out. This is research that is supposed to be like conducted extensively with literal people involved as test samples. And then we find out like, oh, maybe this test sample is just performed on certain demographics of people, maybe like 10 people in a particular classroom, and they're using this research from 10 people to judge the lifestyle of
It's like
millions of people, billions of people.
it's like Dilbert, the animated series where their company has a department of statistical distortion, and he comes up with some research. It's like one rat, one test. I can extrapolate from that.
you see, this is what I'm saying. Like I don't think this should be allowed. I think we should extend this research to actually cover like more demographics,
Yeah,
more
but you
people, and
know,
like, maybe we can have,
who's gonna pay for it?
well, we're
I
paying for
think
this
that
already.
I think that like ultimately in an ideal world, like all research has merit because you can't really tell what is gonna produce something applicable to general populations. You don't know. You may be researching something and then suddenly you make some discovery that like changes everything, right? Like you can't. It's not like when you play, I don't know, some sort of civilization game and you have like a tech tree and you know exactly where you end up if you keep unlocking some particular branch of it, right?
Mhm.
You just poke around in the dark and sometimes you come up with gems, but like 99% of times you come up with nothing, right? And like on one hand, like you can't limit people. I think that like you have to weed out bad actors who are doing it maliciously or who are like misrepresenting their findings, because again that's going to be like another hour worth of discussion, you know.
Yeah,
So maybe we should leave it for next time because
yeah,
we've been on it for like 2 hours
yeah. We
and I
can
gotta go.
pick
But
it up.
you know, whenever we get a chance to do it again, hopefully next week. I kept saying like, yeah, we'll do it next week, and then like month and a half passed. So I'm
Well,
not gonna say anything just in case, but
yeah.
hopefully soon.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Yeah, we'll get a chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Mo,
Thank you, Vasili.
and we'll pick it up next time in episode 97.
All right.
All right,
See you.
bye.
Bye.